Mi gente, you already know who it is. It's Danny Limelight. And I need all of you to subscribe to According to Woods podcast on Facebook, YouTube, and all other platforms.
What's good, party people? This is According to Woods, and I have the honor and privilege of talking to a Muay Thai aficionado. He is the undisputed king of the right hand. He's the one and only Adrian Yanez. Adrian, what's going on, my man?
How's it going, man? Doing good. Doing better now.
Doing better now, man. That seems to be hopefully the theme of not just this year, but like just going forward after all of the crumminess that was last year. Doing better now should be the best that we could do, and kind of like the underlying statement of life.
I agree, man. This last year was crazy for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And I almost kind of look at like sideways and whatever. If you didn't experience some type of hardship and everything is like on the up and up, I'm like, wait, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing?
Right, I know, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, man. But I mean, one of the many things that I admire about you, it's not only the fact that you are a combat sports athlete, but I don't know if it was very early on or what have you, you made yourself marketable, right? In many ways. You had you could have been monster number 3. You could have been the beast, right? Like in a pantheon of beasts, right? You made sure that your fight moniker was something that was completely like synonymous with you, first off, and then you were able to build that brand into a clothing line, which that's what I kind of preach to, like, everybody, not just fighters, not just pro wrestlers, not like anybody, especially after a year like we had, job losses and everything like that. You are the ultimate kind of conduit, whether your brand, which is yourself. You are the CEO of your own brand. Now, is it the CEO of a failing business or a multi-million-dollar potential business, right? And that's one thing that you essentially went ahead and did, and I absolutely love it. So I definitely want to get into that. But I mean, one part of it is the Muay Thai, is the combat sports. So how did combat sports find you?
My dad was a fighter, so he got us into it. He was actually the first time I ever sparred was I was 8 years old, and it was in La Mesa prison in Mexico, TJ. That was the first time I ever had a boxing sparring match. And it's crazy when I tell people that, because people are like, "Is that real?" But my younger brother and I, we both went there and we both sparred. And my dad was in prison there teaching boxing, and he was a Muay Thai enthusiast, but he did more Muay Thai for self-defense, and kind of just stuck with it, man.
Well, I think it's brilliant, and especially the fact that, I mean, it's cool to have your dad. Your dad already kind of knows the lay of the land, right? But also, nowadays we're starting to see, kids in jiu-jitsu at the age of 3 and 4 before they even go to regular school, right? And theoretically speaking, that's kind of like it's a tender age, but also that's a cool age to kind of get into it.
Yep. Start them young, man. That's how Muay Thai is. You got kids out there in Thailand fighting at like 6, 5 years old,
Yeah, and that's almost I almost wish that we, as a society, worldwide society, kind of borrowed from that aspect of Thailand, right? Because, I mean, men, women, kids, transgenders, everybody, when it comes to doing Y Crew, like, this is what we're doing, and we show honor and respect, and this is just what we're doing. And it's literally a national kind of currency, because everybody from all over the world, they know the best Muay Thai comes out of, obviously, Thailand.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you got many people over there. And it's funny that you say the white crew, because I'm actually one of the few Thai fighters that doesn't do the white crew.
Really?
Yeah.
Is there? I mean, is there a reasoning or?
Well, I mean, if you've ever gone to Thailand, like I always tell people, if you really want to train real Muay Thai and learn real Muay Thai, go to Thailand, but not just for a few weeks, a few months. Like stay there for 6 months to a year, so you get excuse me, used to the culture. You'll notice that when they do the white crew, it looks way different than a foreigner doing a white crew. They're doing the white crew because it's part of their culture. You know, it's part of them to pay respects to their gym and the people before them. When foreigners are going there to do the white crew, it's more because they're trying to learn it to look cool, or because their trainers are telling them to do it, or because they feel like they're not doing real Muay Thai unless they do it. They're not really doing it to pay homage and respect to the people that have there before them, to kind of lay out the foundation for Muay Thai. They're just doing it because, well, this is what I got to do Muay Thai. So there's like a different aspect of it when you go there. You learn, the Thais do it and they do it beautifully. And I feel like when I do it, it looks like crap. So I'm not trying to disrespect, their white crew and their culture, their religion. And when foreigners do it, I mean, don't get me wrong, there's some foreigners that look amazing when they're doing the white crew, but they're doing it for opposite reasons than the Thais are doing it. Um, but you start to learn that when you're there living there.
I love that analogy, because I mean, I grew up in Inglewood, right? And one of the things that I try to do, there was a lot of Spanish speaking people, right? So, and I'm half African descendant of slaves on my dad's side, and then half Fijian on my mom's side, right? And the a lot of the verbiage, right, is similar to speaking Spanish, right? Like roti is we eat a
Right.
lot of curry. So roti is a flatbread that we eat the curry with. So when, friends would have me over to the house and they're like, oh, mi tia Rosa, like made tamales and everything. And I'm like, oh, gracias, tia Rosa. And they're like, you do the and I was like, I do the my entire life. Like, but I just need to learn that. And I want to show the respect because obviously I'm out of my culture, but I want to be immersed. But
Yeah.
I love the fact that like you don't do it, but with that same kind of respect and homage. Like, I don't want to disrespect your culture by doing it wrong, which I love that,
Yeah.
that ideology.
And yeah, I still do. I still pay my respects. I walk around the ring every corner and I pay my respects. But as far as doing the white crew, I mean, even just me feeling like I'm doing it wrong, it kind of throws me off for the fight. Because I've only tried it one time and it threw me off the whole fight because I feel like I just disrespected it. And everybody's looking at me like, who's this guy trying to, do our Muay Thai? So then after that, I just never did it. But it also put a target on my back because people were kind of, some people feel like it's disrespectful. So, and that's eventually how I came up with, I got the name King of the Right Hand because the target on my back.
Whoa! Which I mean, and we kind of went over it, but Don McGuire of the Fighter's Voice, he wants to know, what are your thoughts on traditional Muay Thai? Because the reason why he asked is he actually had Crew Pole, who's the only female to ever become a crew, on his show last night. So,
Yeah.
I mean, do you feel by not doing the white crew, is it any less traditional Muay Thai in terms of style, or?
Well, I mean, it depends on what you're asking about traditional ring sport Muay Thai, because ring sport Muay Thai is different. Traditional Muay Thai, real Muay Thai, is not a ring sport. There's a lot of controversy and there's a split in Thailand. And like I said, you can only learn this when you actually go there and live there. There's a lot of people in Thailand who don't like the ring sport Muay Thai because it's watered down Muay Thai. Real Muay Thai was made for self defense, by the king, to defend the king and the royal family. And so it's a lot different. They use weapons. They use a lot more grappling. It's a lot different. It's Muay Thai. So when you get the traditional Muay Thai and ring sport, it just depends on what style. Are you the golden era, which is the original Thai style? Their techniques and their kicks are a lot different. Which when I went there, I thought my kick was good out here. When I went to Thailand, they perfected my kick. So it just depends on what you mean by traditional Muay Thai. Like there's in Thailand, they think traditional Muay Thai is the old school. I'm gonna kill you, self defense, and then out here, people traditional Muay Thai is like ring sport, like, and there's different styles of Muay Thai too. People don't realize that when you go to Thailand, there's different styles. More different styles for different people. So I always tell that to people when they go to Thailand, like, don't go to Thailand and then just train at one gym and say that you learn real Muay Thai because there's different styles.
No, 1,000%, and it's that perspective, and you again, you had a unique perspective because your dad, in terms of like, non-Thai, right? Muay Thai, especially, if you kind of grew up in watching boxing on Wild World of Sport on ABC or even the Spanish language, channels. I mean, that's where I got it, in terms of like. I think it was like Univision that had some like they were the Univision Deportes, like on Saturdays and Sundays even, they would have boxing, right? But, you know, going from boxing, which is contested in a ring, to Muay Thai, it's a completely different deal. But your dad, I mean, do you know like how your dad got involved in Muay Thai? Because I think that's interesting, especially for the time period. We're talking like, you know,
Yeah.
80s, 70s, 80s, right?
It's like 80s, early 90s. I think so. I don't know his roots. I know so he was in prison for a long time in Mexico. He got arrested or in Mexico. He did like 10, 11 years. So he learned Muay Thai. He was already boxing before he went to prison, but he Muay Thai when he was in there by a guy that was a trainer and like in Thailand that got arrested in Mexico for whatever reason. And so he started learning in there, and he learned Muay Thai Baran, which is the traditional Muay Thai art. So it was more self defense, how to take someone out, how to use weapons and things like that. And so he was kind of getting into that. And when I, got into MMA and stuff like that, I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna stick with it. But I'm gonna learn the ring sport because I want to make some money, But that's how it happened.
So, I mean, after that, you and your brother, in elementary school age, doing actual competition boxing and what have you. I mean, was your dad kind of like, was he gang like, oh, my sons are doing it. That's the dream, or was there a little bit of hesitance? Because there are some folks that may not want their kids. It might be their dream, but they might not want their kids to get into the physicality aspect of it.
Yeah. Now, my dad went to prison, so it's funny when I talk about my dad because I don't really know him. So he went to prison.
Wow.
He wasn't really in our lives. We kind of grew up without him. But the times that we would go to visit him, we were pretty much like forced to go visit him. And there was a couple times where we would go in the prison, like to visit him, and him and my group would be outside. And uh, other than that, I don't really have any memory beyond that with my dad, and kind of just fell off. But
Yeah.
he, yeah, he. I don't think he really knew that I was fighting up until he got out of prison, and he was like, "Man, seen your videos, seen your fights, and that." So
Well, I mean, to kind of strengthen a relationship, and that's one thing that people outside of our kind of combat sports community, like when we're saying like, oh, punch each other in the face, and then like we hug it out and or submit each other or whatever, like they don't get it, but it's something that you kind of have to be here. You have to be there to kind of experience it.
yeah.
Now, in terms of like that, that fight in TJ, right? What was your kind of, relationship with it? Were you like, oh man, that sucks getting hit? Or is this like, oh no, this is something I want to do, regardless of whatever, and did you continue on that path?
Um, it was like a sparring match, but it was more of it was fun for us. It was like, all right, cool, we're gonna get in there. It wasn't like it was set up and we went down there to fight. It was we were just visiting my dad. And he's like, hey, I live here in boxing. I got these kids coming. You guys are gonna spar with them. All right, cool. So it was fun for us. And I remember my younger brother. He hit the kid so hard he flew through the ropes, and we're like, all right, cool. So that was our first initiation. He was like, you guys got to stick with this. And I mean, I didn't really stick with it and consistently, like thinking I was going to compete. I wanted to be an artist, but I was always fighting. I grew up in South San Diego. So, I mean, South San Diego, Southeast San Diego, you're growing up. I'm always fighting. I was always fighting, getting in trouble at school. And then as I got older, I thought, man, I might as well, if I'm going to be fighting this much, I might as well make some money from it. And try to keep, I did it more for health reasons. Wanted to stay in shape.
There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. And at what point do you kind of continue? Because and of course, like, yeah, it might have been of a kind of a glorified sparring match. But I mean, especially in the state of California right now, where there's nothing really going on aside from the big promotions, like it's kind of weird, right? Where we might actually have to go back to glorified sparring. I know there's a couple of promotions that are, oh my gosh, they're doing like backyard fights. It's so crazy. But I mean,
You see me? Can you hear
it's
me?
good. Yeah, absolutely. You're fine. Go ahead and say something. Yeah, so a little bit of technical difficulties, but thank you guys for hanging with it. If you guys don't already know, this is According to Woods, a kind of a lifestyle podcast. A lot of MMA, a lot of pro wrestling, a lot of combat sports stuff, but also other stuff. So if you haven't already done so, go ahead and like, share, and subscribe to the According to Woods podcast on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. And we have Adrian Yanez, better known as King of the Right Hand, the King of the Right Hand. I am literally at liege to royalty, you know. So and Alex Reyes says, "Hey, I'm friends with Yokozuna and The Rock's cousin. Get him on your podcast." I'm not a friend of them. So if you know, let's kind of shoot the DMs. I'm just saying. So I'm gonna DM you, Alex. But we're back with the King of the Right Hand, Adrian Yanez, and
Man, my bad.
everything good? No, you're fine. You're
Yeah, yeah. I
fine.
think it's just. I think
So
it just went.
you know, go for it.
No, I was just. I just think the connection went bad. So I apologize. I'm back though.
No worries. So you were saying like, fighting for money, right? So what age, does this happen? Where you're in like high school or?
I was training throughout high school, and I really started. I wanted to be like a power lifter or fighter. I was just kind of, I didn't really like fighting. Even growing up fighting, I don't like confrontation. I don't like hurting people. I just did it because I was good at it. People picked on me, bullied. So then I didn't know how to express myself verbally, so I would act out physically. And now I know how to express myself verbally. But yeah, it wasn't until maybe 20 years old, 19, 20. I was like, I don't want to go to college. This is a waste of money. It's cheaper for me to go to a gym and keep training. So then that's
Yeah.
what I did.
And kudos to you for, kind of figuring out strengths. I don't want to say weaknesses, but I mean, just where your strengths lie. And, imagine, and especially right now, where student debt is at an all-time high and what have you, you went with a passion project. But I mean, all of that, you've been able to not only parlay in your career, but also in your brand, King of the Right Hand. That's a
Yeah.
thing. I mean, one of the sleekest, websites, not just of combat, clothing and lifestyle wear, but I mean, just it's so fresh, But again, you don't necessarily have to. If you want to go to college, cool. But I mean, if you have talents that lie way beyond it, you can go and do that.
Yeah, yeah, and I appreciate that, man, because like it took me a long time to even think that I never thought I'd be having a brand or a nickname. So, because my nickname originally when I was doing MMA was the Hulk,
Yeah.
and when I got the name King of the Right Hand, I got that in Thailand. I fought 4 times in a week and a half, and I fought on a Friday night, a Sunday. It was a Tuesday and a Thursday, and I fought on the Queen's birthday, the last fight, and then when I came back to the gym the next day, I had a broken ankle, torn rotator cuff, and one of the trainers was like, "Adrian, King of the Right Hand," and it kind of just stuck with me. And then, but that also put a target on my back because I was pretty known for the foreigner that never did the white crew. So it's crazy.
Yeah, but I mean, and then the fact that you fought on the Queen's birthday, I mean, that is like I've got goosebumps, right? As a foreigner, I mean, for those who don't know, right? I mean, if you're a wrestling fan, it's WrestleMania. If you're a football fan, I mean, I would even say bigger than the Super Bowl because this is the entire country of Thailand,
Yep.
basically in celebration of its queen and its monarchy, and you get to fight as a foreigner on one of those coveted cards. I mean, even for the Thai, there's only so many spots you can give out, and for you as a foreigner to fight,
Mhm.
that's that's amazing.
And I was the main event for that fight, and there was 22 fights that night. 22 fights. I was the only foreigner, and I was the main event. So, and I didn't speak Thai at that time, so I was like, oh man, I don't know who all these guys are. So the guy that I was gonna fight, I didn't really. I seen a picture of him, but with there was 22 fights. You know what I'm saying? That's like 40 something fighters. I didn't. I was the
Yeah.
only foreigner, so everybody. I was like, oh man, where's the guy I'm gonna fight? And I didn't really see him until we actually went into the ring. It's crazy.
Wow. Now, I mean, were you knocking people out with like right hands and what have you that had your coach essentially bestow that on you? Because I think it's absolutely fantastic, that name.
Yeah. So it's I have a certain style, the way I throw my right hand, and it's a certain technique. It's not very much different than other people when they throw like an overhand right, but I throw it a certain way so I stay off center line. And I've only taught it to one of my students. He's pretty much my right hand, second in command. He's coming up, but I only use that style right hand because I had a torn rotator cuff in my left shoulder, so I couldn't throw my jab. So I was winging my left hand out just to set up my right hand. So that's the only way I was, all four fights. I knocked out all four fighters in a week. And people were like, oh, he has a good right hand. But it was because they don't realize I couldn't use my shoulder. I couldn't pick up my left arm.
Man, but I mean, of all things, this it almost reminds me of like Connor, right? If obviously Connor's kind of you know thing, it wasn't necessarily physical, but he was a plumber's apprentice and what have you, and he could have continued on this path, but his dad was like, no, you need to fight, right? You need to fight. And it's just kind of funny, these kind of outlier things that happen that kind of rocket you to another form of success, even within, like, even beyond your own expectations.
Yeah. And I didn't even plan to fight for money in Thailand. When I went to Thailand, I was doing volunteer work to try to help kids that were pretty much refugees from Cambodia and Burma, which is Myanmar, uh, that were in the slums, that had no parents, that pretty much were at risk of sex trafficking and just drugs. So then I needed to raise money. So I was like, how do I raise money? And the next day, I think the next week, they asked, hey, we need a foreigner to fight at Gawila Stadium, which is like the Lumpini of the North. If you know anything about Thailand, Lumpini is like the most prestigious stadium. It's kind of like the difference between Grand and Madison Square Garden. And I was like, all
Yeah.
right, I'll do it. Main event. I said, cool. And they said, all right. And then I thought, hey, we have another fight coming up. You want to do that too? All right, cool. I thought I'm just racking up this money, which was not a lot. I was only getting paid, what, $100 a fight? So,
Well, I mean, $100 US, right? But in
oh,
baht,
yeah.
is like 36,000 baht. You're like, yeah. And then you look
Yeah.
outside and like, oh wait, grilled shrimp is like 1,500 baht. I'm screwed.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
it's the way it is, man.
And
But
that's
that's
oh,
the
go ahead.
reason why people in Thailand are fighting, because they can make. If you ever ask the Thai fighters and the Thais, they'll tell you they don't want to fight, but it's a way for them to make enough money in one night that can last them a whole month. Because the average person in Thailand makes around 3,000 to 5,000 baht a month, which is like $100, $120
Yeah.
American money. So they're making 3,000 baht in one night. So instead of working a whole month to make 3,000 baht, they can make that in one night. So if you ever talk to them, that's the difference between the culture here and there, is they're fighting to make enough money to survive. And out here, they're fighting because they want to be famous. They watch too much UFC, they watch too much West Coast Muay Thai fighters, and they want to be bad. Out there, they'll tell you, like, one of the last fights I had over there was the guy told me, it's, hey, elbows? And I'm like, no elbows? He's like, no, I fight tomorrow. So they're fighting constantly to make money to survive. And because if you talk to them, they'll tell you, I don't like fighting. I don't want to get hit. I need to make money. Out here, people are fighting for the wrong reasons. And that's one of the reasons why I don't fight out here anymore. I only fight in Thailand, because even when I do fight, I'm using the money to help their kids that are refugees, or I give it back to the trainers because they make less than us, man.
That's a stark kind of realization that you make, especially as a foreigner, and it's crazy, when we, any type of war, and especially, you know of people of different foreign backgrounds, right? Like you might be fighting for honor, but like what honor means to that other country and what have you, it's completely different. It's, there's, I guess there's levels to this ish is the best euphemism that I
Hmm.
could make,
Yeah,
and what warrior means, across different cultures is completely different.
exactly. Yeah, our culture here is like, who's macho? Everybody's real selfish for themselves, and then you get people that are like, there's the way I see it is there's three types of fighters. There's the martial artist, the person that does it for the art and the culture, and they're usually black belts in some type of taekwondo, karate, jujitsu. Then you get the athlete. The athlete is the one that he's played every sport, and he can eat 20 tacos every day and still have a six pack, and he wants to try something new. Then you get the fighter, the guy that may not look the best, he may not have the best conditioning, but he'll stand and bang with anybody because he needs to make a living and because that's what he's built for. And out in Thailand, you'll get the guys that are just fighters. They're just trying to they're trying to survive, trying to make money. And I've always considered myself a fighter, but nowadays I'm going more towards a martial artist.
I mean, it's absolutely brilliant. And again, the fact that it's not, the fact that you've made it a point, like, hey, I'm only fighting, away, and I'm fighting for a purpose, right? I'm going to do it if it benefits the people of the lands
Right.
of which I'm fighting, which I have to ask, like, how did you get into that side of it? The charity nonprofit stuff, like, how did that happen?
When I was in the so when I retired from mixed martial arts, I went to the military. It's like a long story there that I won't get into, but I got into the military, got out dealing with PTSD, and I really
Yeah.
just thought, you know what, man, I need a purpose. I need a purpose. I want to help people. I've helped a lot of people. I've done a lot of programs for youth and young adults here in the States. I've always wanted to go to Thailand. They have the sex trafficking, which I'm going to try to stop. I'm going to try to help. And when I
Yeah.
got there, I thought, while I'm there, I'm going to try to train Muay Thai for a little bit. And for the first month and a half, I don't think I trained at all. I think I was just doing volunteer work in the slums of Bangkok. And it wasn't until when I was going to leave, I was like, hey, I'm going to train Muay Thai for a week. So I started training. And then I thought, you know what, I'm going to extend my stay. I love training. So then I extended my stay. And then the week after is when they offered me the fight. They said, anybody want to fight. And I thought, this is a way for me to raise money because I'm trying to help sponsor these kids to go into from the slums where they have no parents and into like a Christian school where they kind of give them clothes, food, education. And I thought, all right, I need some money. So I'll fight and take the money. I didn't care if I won or lost. And then I came out of retirement in Thailand.
Wow. And that in itself is an amazing story, right? Where y a lot of veterans, and thank you for your service first and foremost, but a lot of veterans are going through PTSD and other forms of traumatic, whether it be brain injury or emotional distress, and the things that you see in wartime, right? And you've figured out a way to kind of channel that into something outside of yourself and to
Praise
give
God.
back. That's amazing. No, I was saying it's amazing
Oh
that
man,
even
so
with,
slow down. I can't hear you.
oh no, oh no, can you hear me now?
It's the audio.
Let's see. Can you hear me, Nick? No.
Yeah, it's the audio, man. I
You're,
can't hear you, brother.
so jump out and jump back in. So yeah, so this is an incredible story, right? Adrian essentially was a military veteran here in the United States, came back, had PTSD, and essentially figured out a way where to help manage his PTSD. He figured that he would go to foreign lands and help with like people that are disadvantaged and people that are a part of sex trafficking, that and trying to give not credence but basically to stop kind of evil in the world. Oh, there you are. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
All right. So yeah, I mean, I think it's amazing, absolutely amazing, the fact that even with the trauma that you experienced with the PTSD, that you got outside of yourself, right? That's so much mental and physical strength and aptitude that I mean, I couldn't commend you anymore. That's amazing.
Yeah. Appreciate you, appreciate you. You know, it grew. It's crazy because I try to help kids that I feel like I don't want them to go through what I went through because I did grow up in an abusive home. You know, that's why I'm not really that close to my dad. I didn't grow up with my dad, and then plus he was in prison. Uh, so coming out, you know, my older brother on drugs, gangs, Southern California. So now I was like, all right, how can I help other kids? I want to find a purpose. And after the military, I think that's the problem with veterans is that they need to have a purpose. It's hard to come back into society and not have a purpose. And so mine was doing volunteer work and helping kids out there. And even now, everything that I do, I'm trying to build my brand and working on my brand, and you know, specifically to keep going around and pushing my movement to help youth and young adults, you know, that deal with mental health issues and addiction issues.
That is absolutely phenomenal because I mean that's one thing that is essentially the underlying beast of, especially here in North America, U.S. specifically. There's drugs, there's mental anguish, and then and a whole nother kind of like stream of reference is military vets that come back and they can't readjust, right, and there aren't services for them, to kind of assimilate to the general population, right? And then even as we kind of rear back into fights, that's I mean, I was there at obviously this is completely different, but I was there for the weigh-ins for Tito Chuck 3, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes as fighters, it's hard for you to step away from the limelight, right? Like,
Oh,
but you figured out a way where it was just like you could channel what would normally be your fundamental darkness and basically shine, have some sort of light, become the canary in the coal mine to others that might be even be more disenfranchised than you are.
yeah. And I never really wanted to be famous or anything like that. I just wanted to keep doing to stay healthy and keep my, you know, from my mental health, I train every day, and for my physical health also. But as a kid growing up, like I didn't want to be famous. I just like, all right, cool. I'm good at this. You know, can I make a little bit of money? Open up my own gym and do a program to keep kids off the streets. And that was all I wanted to do. And it didn't work out quite that way, but you know, now I'm at a point where okay, I can help other people, you know, and anybody. It's I train everybody for free. My program is free. I don't charge people for it because I don't want to, you know, shy people away and turn them away over a few bucks. So that's when I started my brand and the shirts, the clothing line. So this is how I pretty much fund my program. So I can train anybody and everybody I want. Obviously, I'm picking and choosing who I train because there's some people who need it and some people who don't, you know, and especially people who can afford to go to big gyms. I'm like, hey, go ahead and go to the big gyms, but I still get a lot of guys, and especially pro fighters, that come out here to do mitt work and train with me. So it's all love, man.
It's not bad, and again, I always revert back to the scene in that Adam Sandler movie, Big Daddy, where there's that big kind of boardroom, and they're trying to oust Adam Sandler's position away, and he goes up to the podium and he's just like, "Hey, sir, what did you do? Like, what did you want to be when you were young?" Right? And he's like, "I wanted to be a veterinarian." It's like, "Cool. What do you do now?" "Well, I own the largest slaughterhouses in the state of Texas." And you're
Yeah,
like, whoa, you kind of ventured way far from where the 12-year-old you would kick your own ass, right? And
yeah,
the 12-year-old Adrian Yanez probably wouldn't, because I mean you've traveled literally on your art were able to travel to foreign lands, right? You were able to kind of get out of your situation and not repeat the cycles of trauma even prior to the military. Like, you went your own way, and I think that's absolutely phenomenal, and that's essentially what your brand represents. It is the king of the right hand, and like, regardless of whatever circumstances that you may be going through, one well-placed right hand, no matter how insurmountable the odds, there you go. That's your ticket to wherever you need to.
yeah. That's right, man. And I appreciate you, and I appreciate the the art and the Muay Thai and just everything that it's done for me, man. Keeping me, healthy off the streets. It's also therapeutic. I tell everybody all the time, man. If you come, you're feeling down, you come and hit the bags a couple times, do some pad work, and I bet you'll feel a lot better, man. A lot less stress. So it just depends. You got to stick with it. You just got to find a reason why you're competing, why you're fighting, and why you want to fight. But make sure it's a good reason. I tell all the guys that come and train with me, why do you want to fight? Why do you want to train? You want to fight to be famous? Then go train somewhere else, man. Go to AKA. I have the guy, I know Javier Mendez. He's cool. Um, and that's another thing is a lot of these guys, like Cain Velasquez came out here to meet the kids that I train. He's been supporting my program. Tony Castro, Javier Mendez, the CSA gym up there, Coach K. They all support what I do. But I'm known as the Ronin, because I don't really affiliate with anybody. And I do it for opposite reasons. I don't do it to try to train fighters and be famous. I do it to try to help people, mental health issues, and keep them off the streets. So it's been all love, man.
That's it, and I love, I no matter how many interviews that I've done or what have you, when I ask people like, how did you get into it? And then why do you get into it? I don't think I've ever heard the same answer twice. Right, we're going on like a 5-year, and then that's the thing, and you don't have to be affiliated with these prestigious names or whatever. Your talent and your talent alone will be the catalyst to help other people, and if that's your why, to get up in the morning and everything, man, more power to you. Because, you figured that aspect out where, Fortune 500 CEOs and whatever, they don't have it. They might have it in the bank, but they might not have their why. They don't know why. This
Yep.
thing got too big for their britches, right? Where you figured it out.
Yeah, man. I know why I want to do it. It's just the hard part is that I've always been kind of didn't really like people too much growing up. So I've always kind of, what do you call that, closed-minded. So I never wanted
Yeah.
to collab with anybody or work with anybody because I always feel like, well, they don't want to do it for the same reasons that I do. Same thing in Thailand. When I was in Thailand, I was there for so long that I started to feel like I was a Thai. So when foreigners would come, I'd be like, oh, these stupid foreigners, come and taking up our gym. And I would forget that I was a foreigner. And I remember saying that to one of the Thais. His name was Crew Sun. He was actually one of the guys in my last fight. Told me, you know what, knock him out fast so we can go home because we fought 4 times already. Like, I'm like, all right. And I remember I was telling him, I was like, these dumb Farangs coming out here taking up our gym. And I forgot. I was like, wait, dude, I'm a foreigner too. I just, I did it for, I was always trying to collab. Now I'm trying to collab and network with people. Now I know that I got to promote. I'm trying to do it for the right reasons. And I'm trying to be more open-minded. That's, I don't want to be known as a Ronin anymore. It sounded cool at first, but it was just pretty much they were saying, like, you don't want to train with anybody. You got your own program, your own thing. But I was doing it for different reasons, obviously. So, but.
Yeah. Which, I got to get into because this is something that I stress, to anyone that I talk to, I say, get all the social medias, right? Like literally all of the social media, right? Because you don't want to be like Jim Ross of the WWE and somebody beat him to the punch and he has to kind of finagle from Twitter, his own social media deal. But like just be present because you don't know who might be looking, right? And to create a
Yep.
brand around yourself, you could be, again, the beast, right? How many beasts on just an amateur MMA or Muay Thai or Jiu-Jitsu competition are there? There's 3 beasts on that card. And how do you differentiate yourself from the others, right? From the rest of the pack, right? So you were bestowed that name, right? King of the right hand by a trainer in Thailand, right? But when do the wheels start turning like, hey, I've got something here. I've gotten lightning in a bottle, right? This sounds really cool, right? This might be cool on a t-shirt. Like, was it just one t-shirt like running down, or were you like, no, this is a legit clothing brand. I'm going to, do the whole trademarking and everything and like make it a thing because I think it's absolutely phenomenal. You don't just put out a fight shirt just to put it out, for people just to whatever. I would like people to think about, hey, your fight shirts, why not have people wear it, look cool where they would wear it in everyday life and get more awareness beyond just the fight world?
Yeah. It started when I was trying to make custom gloves originally. And I was like, all right, let me make custom gloves. And then someone said, you should make a shirt. I'm like, you're right. I'm going to make my own Muay Thai shorts, my custom shorts, because I have my custom Muay Thai shorts that I fought in. And I wanted to make them with the name King of the Right Hand. Because in Thailand, everybody knows what King of the Right Hand is. In the States, no one knew who that was. They're like, who's this guy? You know? So I thought, I'm going to make some shorts. And then I was like, I'm going to make a shirt too. And when I started training people here, I got a little small team. One of the guys, his name's Romeo King Beltran. You know, he trains with me. He's an up-and-coming MMA fighter right now. He's extremely good, 21 years old, and he's racking everybody up. I got another guy. His name's Sky King. You know, he's half Samoan, half Polynesian, half black. And I'm like, why is everybody named King? And I'm the King of the Right Hand. So I said, if you guys train with me, I'm going to give you guys the K.O.T.H, which someone pronounced it Coder. Now you should make some shirts because they all use that in their fight names. When they go to fight, it'll be Romeo, Coder, Beltran, you know, Sky, Coder, Beltran, K.O.T.H. And I thought, I'm going to make some shirts so you guys can rock them. And then when I made those shirts, someone at one of the fights, I think it was Rikishi from wrestling. He was retired. Now he does some of the combat gloves. He was like, hey, man, where can I get some of those shirts? I'm like, oh, I don't know. He's like, you should make some more, man, you know, and sell them out here. And I thought about that. I'm like, oh, shoot. All right, cool. So I made them, and I thought, I don't know if anybody's going to buy them. And sure enough, man, they kind of sold out the first batch. And I was like, man, I'm going to make this into a brand, you know? So, and now everybody knows the brand. Hey, we're going to go train with the Coder guys. You know, they call it Coder and for K.O.T.H. And like, we're going to go train with the Coder boys. So I've had people coming out here all the time, man. Hey, where can I get a shirt? I want to train with you guys. And I'm like, all right, cool. So it started blowing up, and I'm still working on it. You know, right now I have my movement called the Onda Project to unite everybody, promote peace and unity. So it's part of my Coder brand, but it's called Onda Project, which means wave. If you ever know, back in the 70s and 80s, La Onda was a movement by the Hispanic people, you know, to bring everybody together. We're the wave. So I took that, and it's called Onda Project, and I'm trying to promote peace and unity with everybody right now for what's going on. And it's just blowing up, man, blowing up.
But that's amazing. That is absolutely amazing. And I love that a wrestler, right? Rikishi, WWE Hall of Famer, you know, wrapping that Ultimate Oos, you know, merch himself. He's got the blackout fight gear, fight gloves, and what have you, right? And one thing that wrestlers, you know, there was a story of the Hall of Fame tag team, the Rock and Roll Express, where I think Chris Jericho had said it, right? Where somebody gave the Rock and Roll Express a license plate, like R&R, blah, 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 right? And they were like, yeah, thank you. They signed it and then turned it over and sold it for $40. Like,
yeah,
I mean, you know, if there were merchandise kings and queens, those are, I mean, essentially workers. Those are the carnies of pro wrestling, right? Which I feel like, you know, MMA and you know, MMA and other combat sports should bar for pro wrestling because, again, Muhammad Ali, love Gorgeous George. We're talking about Mike Tyson, love Bruno Sammartino. You see guys in the NFL cutting promos and everything, and you're like, you know, even beyond wrestling, you know, people that have a little bit of pro wrestling influence, they've been able to transcend even their genre of sport.
No, man, it's crazy how that works, you know. And I've met a lot of people now that are supporting the brand. It's I never thought I was gonna meet Rikishi. I didn't know who it was at first because he was retired, and he's like, hey, we have the blackout fight gear. So he's actually sponsored the gloves for one of my guys that was fighting. So it's cool, man.
I mean, I think it's amazing. I think it's amazing. And then, you know, again, the other project, right? You know, of course, there was a lot of dissension in the world, right? You know, not just here in this country, but a lot of it in this country, you know, and then, you know, other places, right? So unity, that's one thing, right? And that, you know, regardless of like who was protesting over what or this and that and whatever, that was all kind of the way that I saw it was all a distraction for eventually we're going to have to come with all of that stuff. All of the crap that we talked about each other, all of the crap policies in politics, all the systems that don't work, blah, 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 like all of that. And we're going to have to bring it onto the table and we're going to have to figure it out like together. Right. So, and that's it. So, I mean, where does that spirit come from?
I don't know, man. It's different, right? Because everything was going on in the world right now. I don't really talk politics. I'm like in the middle. I'm trying to unite everybody. Like, look at,
Yeah.
if we want to make change in this world, we got to come together. You know what I'm saying? Everything that's going on up behind the scenes, I can tell you what I think for, serving this country and working for the government. I can tell you what I believe, what's going on behind the scenes, but it's all distraction to divide people. And I'm trying to bring people back together. So, with my K.O.R.T.H brand and my Onda project, I mean, I took up skating. I'm learning how to skate right now, And so I've had people from down south, Anaheim. I got a lot of MMA fighters down there. Like, let's cruise it, man. I got a longboard. Let's cruise. And I'm like, let's do it, man. I want to meet up in different areas, different scenes. I have people that wouldn't hang out. Gang members, active gang members, hanging out with skaters at skate parks, and it's like the most awkward looking scene, but it's all love, man. Everybody's just chilling. And we just cruise, bro. Like, I'm taking a step back from training right now, but I'm doing a lot of seminars, and I'm just trying to hit up different scenes, different groups of people, and try to bring them together, man. So it's blown up. It's amazing. It's been amazing.
But that's it. That's it. For somebody to kind of step away from, I guess traditional norms, right? Or at least what we're taught are
Yeah.
traditional norms, and you got to be this kid or whatever. Like, I mean, I grew up what they consider a rock kid in Inglewood, right? So I had some stairs, my fair share of
Yeah.
stairs and stare downs and what have you. But I'm all like, nah. I mean, I was just jamming out to Joe Satriani, which again, that's rock, but there's no lyrics at all. My dad was a jazz musician on Fisherman's Wharf, a street
Nice.
performer. That's kind of him right there. There we go. There's the glare. But him pointing up there, and like I'll listen to jazz and whatever
Nice.
to be able to, yeah, to be able to, expand your horizon and figure out instead of like picking out, and this is kind of what we do as people, right? Uh, we kind of pick the one thing, right? The one minuscule thing that we are different, right? Whether it be belief, whether it be skin color, whether it be you make this many zeros next to the decimal and whatever, versus like, okay, all of that, are we all not trying to figure it out, right? Like we're all trying to figure it out. The millionaire and the person on Skid Row trying to figure it out, trying to figure out what their day is, what that's going to consist of, trying to get some sort of savoriness, right? Like some sort of substance in our life. That's what we're fighting for, right? Like we
Yep.
fight for substance, right? So why can't that be the uniter versus like all of the other things that are we believe should be the separation gap?
Yeah, man. You got to break the stigma. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to break the stigma that everybody's for themselves, selfishness. You know what I'm saying? If we want to make change in the streets, we got to come together. We got to do it together. A lot of people want to complain. And I've seen it a lot. That's the reason why I'm not really big on the MMA scene anymore. Kind of stay hidden. There's a lot of politics involved. There's a lot of people that, they're trying to put on a front to play the game and become actors. And I want to bring everybody together, man. If we're A lot of people complain about how bad the world is and what's going on and this and that, but doesn't know. Everybody wants to sit on their butts and not do anything about it. So my goal is to learn something new every time and bring other people out of their comfort zone to learn something new. Also, I'm learning how to skate, so I'm in the skate scene right now. Eventually, we got a couple guys that are musicians. My brother's a reggae artist. I'm gonna try to learn some music, and do some of that with my project, and try to come out in the music industry and the community. So that's the whole
Yeah,
goal, man.
absolutely. And again, figuring out ways where you could relate to people, and this is,
Yep,
I mean,
exactly.
I had been doing interviews for the past like 4 or 5 years, on the SoCal scene and what have you.
Mhm.
Just started this in July, right? This podcast in July
Nice.
because I wanted to figure out okay, this is where I am here in Southern California. I want to see what's going on in Alabama. I want to see what's going on in Alaska. And I was fortunate enough that I had friends who would send me people like, oh, I've got this fighter, and he's from fighting for a promotion that you probably never heard of. And I was like, cool, that's it. Because again, I want to be able to see what you're seeing, right? To be able
Yeah.
to kind of you break bread, right? And figure out ways where it would be easier, right? Like you don't feel like so I don't know, like a nerve to break bread with anyone, right? You
Yeah.
because we're all trying to figure it out. Some people are doing it better, some people are doing it worse. But the way that we're gonna figure it out is like again talking to each other, you know. And when I saw like I'm gonna delete this that and I'm gonna delete, I'm like, no, man, like you could, we can civilly disagree. Like that's it. Like just because you feel that way and I feel different doesn't mean we can't be friends. Like
Yep.
there's, I'm just like, why can't we be friends? Like I'm going quoting war. Like that's why can't we be friends?
Yeah, that's one. And it's one thing. Like, and, if you follow me on social media, I'm very straightforward. I'm very just like I just tell it like it is. But
Yeah,
I do. I don't pick a side, and I don't say anything that's gonna turn someone else away.
yeah,
But I just tell like it is. I'm built like that. I don't know. Like when I start, like I said, I wasn't able to express myself as a kid, so I acted out physically. So if you made fun
yeah,
of me, said something, I wouldn't say. I would just punch you. Now I know how to express myself verbally, but I don't know. I don't think about what I'm gonna. I have no filter. If it comes, I guess you can say. I just say what's true, what's real. If you ask me my opinion, I'm gonna tell you what I feel. You know what I'm saying? I'll ask you if you really want me to tell you the truth, or you want me to tell you what you want to hear. Because I can tell you what you want to hear, but it ain't gonna help you. And I think with that, like when I see people, I'm just like, hey, what's up, man? How you doing? Good morning. They don't say good morning back. I'm just like, all right, cool. I'm gonna make sure they say good morning back to me. Hey, you want to come and train with me? If I see people, there's a lot of gang members right here where I'm at, a lot of gangsters, and sometimes I'll go to little parks. There's kids out there. I'm like, hey, you guys want to work out with us? You want to train with us? You want to cruise with us? As opposed to, I get a lot of MMA fighters like that come out and train with me, and they'll just be staring back. Oh, we're about to fight. I'm like, nah, why? Let me just invite them to train with us. Try to break the ice, man. So I'm trying to step into their worlds and their scenes, and that's the only way I'm going to be able to relate to them and bring them together.
that is absolute facts. That is absolute facts, and I'm glad that you're doing it. But I gotta, I mean, before we go, all right. Obviously, you've accomplished a lot of things in your Muay Thai career and your fight career, but learning learning how to skateboard, all right. Obviously, you had certain physical gifts, coming from the combat sports world, but how difficult was it, and uh, when you got a sense of like, I don't want to say mastery, but like when you kind of figured it out, right? When you like, how did you feel versus one of your kind of hard fights and then winning that? Like, what could you compare them? Like finally able to cruise versus like winning a fight.
I guess you can compare them a little bit. It's hard because I'm still learning how to cruise was like, all right, cool, I can cruise. It feels good. But going to the skate park and just, I don't do any tricks, man. Like I still got scars from falling. I'd fallen like maybe 20 times. It's only been 3 weeks. But just going down a little ramp, little hills, it's like you feel like a sense of accomplishment. It feels good. It makes you feel good. And I feel like I'm getting somewhere. We're fighting. I didn't know if I was gonna knock the guy out. I was just trying to like, just don't let me die. I'm like, Lord, don't let me die, man. And I'd win. I'm like, wow, this is really good. It wouldn't hit me till after. But as far as skating, it's a sense of accomplishment like right away. You know what I mean? Like as soon as I go down the little hill, I'm like, oh man, like I feel good. Today was a productive day. And even falling, man, falling is just sucks, bro. But I'm like, all right, I'm learning.
Yeah.
But getting back on the board, we're fighting. If I get knocked out, I get knocked out. I can't get back on the board, man. Maybe not maybe a couple months later, but yeah, it feels good. It feels good to learn, man, and know that you're actually doing something right. At
No,
least I think I am. I don't
absolutely.
know.
No, I mean, again, just expanding yourself, expanding your capabilities. I think that's amazing to do, and especially somebody that's accomplished so much already. To be able to basically put it back into the backpack of life, right? Another bag of tricks, like that's absolutely amazing. Which I want to know. Obviously, the view from a skateboard is a lot different, right? So. Uh, what is the most scenic thing that you've seen? Because obviously, if you drive past, this this particular location in a car, you're going to get a completely different perspective, right? Or you walk or whatever. So, what do you have like a hidden gem? Because like I remember one time I went biking around my neighborhood and I found out there was like a bike path and a literal like restaurant attached to the bike path, and I was just like, oh, and I showed my son. So do you have any like hidden gems that it could only be accessed via your skateboard?
So when so the skate park is right behind my house, and I've never gone there. And even when I came here to visit, and I've never gone. But recently, I've noticed that when I get up early, because no one shows up to the skate park till around noon, so I get up at like 6:45, and you go. It's kind of dark at first, but as soon as the sun starts to rise, it only sheds the light right on the skate park, and it's a small little skate park ramp. So I'm like, and when you look back, it's all dark, but when you look back, it's just pure. You can see the sunrise, and it's like a little cruise. You can cruise around the skate park, the little bowl, and it's just beautiful, man. It's like peaceful, it's kind of therapeutic. And all the guys that have been coming out with me have said the same thing. They're like, man, we got to come out here earlier now, man, just to watch this. And it's just, there's no one around. It's just the sunrise, and you can see the whole, like the mountains in the back. So it's just getting up early in the morning, man. I haven't cruised too much where I found any hidden paths or gems or anything like that out anywhere else, but that's like my main thing, getting up early in the morning, right, to watch the sunrise.
That in itself is a hidden gem. They say the best of the world is right under your thumb. And
Yeah.
the fact that you found out something that was literally like right behind your house, but it's a whole new dimension now that you're a skater. Now that you have a reason why you're getting up early, I think that's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, well, I was already getting up early. Now I'm getting up early, and I have like, instead of running, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go cruise and skate. It's a workout too, man. I'm always sweating. I'm only using it's like a different form of cardio to warm up before we train. So it's cool, man.
That's not bad at all. That's not bad at all. Now, obviously, Adrian, you have had a quite an accomplished career, quite an accomplished life, but there have been many people that have helped you out along the way, both professionally and personally. So let's get some shout outs out of the way, my man.
Yeah, first and foremost, man, my mom's been my biggest supporter. So every time I've trained for a fight. I've always trained in our garage, and with my brothers and everything. So I've never really trained at big gyms. But Oscar Gonzalez, man, one of the wrestling coaches, big coaches, Dondo, man, for supporting me from Gym Crashers. He's been supporting me, man, and we're gonna meet up to do a cruise. I think in a couple weeks, man. So we're gonna be out there in Orange County in a couple weeks. We're gonna do a meetup. Just all the trainers, man, and Chris over at Gym Bangarang in Thailand. He's helped me, man, supported me. He let me stay there for free and train for free when I was living out there. So it was that supported me. But my mom's been my biggest supporter. She's pretty much the one.
That's absolutely brilliant. And I love that you mentioned Dondo because I don't know if you know, but I am also a gym crasher. I was on the show right before COVID hit.
Nice, man.
Yeah, with Joey the
Nice.
Bull and
Small
Robert
world, man.
and
Small world.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's kind of why, because I couldn't get out to Stanton from, Atwater Village and whatever. So I was like,
Yeah,
let me just do stuff here. So, and they just had the Gym Crashers 3-on-3 and the Submission on the Shore event in Galveston,
yeah.
Texas. So shout out to them. But yeah, that's amazing. And your mom, just I mean, of all the things that, especially mom, like, oh my gosh, I don't want my baby boy fighting, but she was like, she's with it. That's absolutely
Yeah,
amazing.
she's never watched me fight, but she'll tell me, she's like, look, if you're gonna do this, do it now because you get one life. And it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. If you're gonna go to Thailand, if you want to live there, make sure you're able to sustain yourself, support yourself. Just check in every once a week, man. And I'm like, just do whatever you want to do as long as you find your purpose. And I'm like, I got you. So it's been like that ever since, man. But everybody, Cain Velasquez for supporting my group. He brought gear a couple weeks ago to one of our kids. Tony Castro, who's the strength and conditioning coach for Habib, DC, and Cain Velasquez, all the world champions. He's been supporting me for a long time. He lives in the same town that I live in. So does Cain. All the guys at CSA Gym. Just everyone, man. You, Dondo, all the Gym Crasher guys. Everybody supporting, man.
Well, we thank you. We thank you for being a shining example of what this sport should mean. And I absolutely love what you're doing. So to find out more about you, uh, King of the Right Hand, the clothing brand, as well as the other projects that you're involved in, where can they find that on the interwebs?
You can go to kotrh.com to the website, or you can go to my Instagram. I have the link in my bio. It's KOTRH _lifestyle. Coder Lifestyle. And I also have a clothing brand page that I'm working on right now for Instagram. That's just K.O.R.T.H. So you guys can go on there, man. Add me. It's K.O.T.R.H. Stands for King of the Right Hand. And check out the link in the bio, man. I'll have shirts up soon.
Man, I can't wait. I can't wait. And Adrian, thank you for not only doing this, but I mean, just thank you for being you, a shining example of what our
Appreciate you, man.
combat sports community is and should be, because that's it, to make the lives of not just us, but the world around us a little bit better every time we throw a straight right hand. And nobody could learn better than the king of said right hand. So appreciate you, my brother.
Appreciate you. Appreciate you too.
And I appreciate you guys for joining us here at the According to Woods podcast. And if you haven't already done so, go ahead and like, share, and subscribe to the According to Woods podcast on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. And if you don't believe me, and I know Adrian subscribed, right, Adrian?
I did. I will right now.
Dang right. So be like the king of the right hand. Be like me. Go ahead and subscribe to the According to Woods podcast. But if you don't believe us, here's Pro Wrestler Zeta Zhang.
Hey, this is Zeta Zhang.